Welcome everyone to Bitcoin Magazine's Meet the Taco Plebs. My name is Casey Carrillo. Before we jump into today's interview, I have some codes for y'all. Code Taco Plebs, no space, will give you 10% off of Bitcoin 22 tickets. The conference in Miami, it's going to be awesome. I highly recommend everyone attend if you're really into Bitcoin. The networking opportunities are immense, and it's going to be a great time. That is code Taco Plebs, gets you 10% off the GA tickets for Bitcoin 2022. And for those of you interested in technical analysis type on-chain analytics, we have the deep dive, which is sort of like our on-chain analytics side of the magazine. For a good discount on that, we've got Macro 21. That is Macro 21, no spaces. You can get a discount on our beautiful subscription to the deep dive analytics. But on forward with our guest today, I have a very exciting addition to our team here at BTC Inc. Q Ghaemi is now operating on the content development side for the magazine. Welcome to the show, Q.
Thank you for having me, Casey. Excited to chat.
Yeah, I mean, we're expanding so much here at BTC Inc. It's exciting to have so many new faces on. Pretty much every one of my previous interviews in the last couple months have been new additions to our team here. So it's been great to get to know everyone. But jumping right into it, I want to ask you, Q, how you personally got into Bitcoin first.
Totally. The orange pilling, I would say, occurred just after the original or the first sort of peak in 2017, 2018 at 20K. CK Snark did his magic on me and just sort of would not stop and never really dropped the Bitcoin conversation. So it was always a little nugget in my head, and I would continue to sort of pester him with questions as I would do my own research. And then, eventually just one day it was my first holiday bonus when I made agent. I just had like so much cash on hand that I was like, I don't want all this cash, and let me just slowly start chipping away at something else. And that's when the first buy happened, and I haven't really looked back since.
Gotta love that CK Snark's orange pilling people since he began himself. So he certainly has a way of convincing those over time. But yeah, I mean, that's interesting. You had a lot of cash and Bitcoin. It was like well positioned to be absorbing of that cash. So interesting. I guess what I would move on to ask you is, what have been the primary quote unquote life lessons that you've taken from Bitcoin?
Totally. I mean, I would probably say the first thing is just like the way you're able to learn so much about Bitcoin, the ecosystem, the technology around it. It's kind of eye-opening how much is just readily available so long as you want to go and seek it out. And then sort of like as you're going down that journey, you just start to slowly realize like as much information as there is, you're probably never gonna really grasp all of it. But if you can hang on to little nuggets here or there, you'll slowly start to sort of build a foundation and be able to go off on your own and sort of make sort of judgments and decisions off of that.
Yeah, and there's actually, what I found striking is the amount of like knowledge that branches off of Bitcoin, whether it be economics, history, computer science, cryptography, so many different topics and ideas. You find yourself diving down these different rabbit holes and learning things that don't necessarily directly apply to Bitcoin, but are very interesting nonetheless.
No, I mean, I will be completely honest. Like econ, for whatever reason in college, probably because I didn't study enough, was not a class I excelled in. And then I think candidly, while I just kept understanding just the supply and demand of Bitcoin, that really helped. I think a lot of basic economic principles that just I couldn't grasp back then made more sense for me as I was studying it through Bitcoin.
Right. Like Bitcoin is sort of like the practical application of many of these sort of abstract concepts for, it's hard to understand economics when it's being applied to like this global scale and all of the complicated features of the fiat system. But for, Bitcoin and Bitcoiners who are interested in the technology, it becomes, I think, more digestible and it's you get to see it represented in real life, and you get to see the fruits of economics at work. But moving on, I guess I would ask you, do you believe that Bitcoin is truly capable of changing the world, and why or why not? Because it seems like many of us in this community believe we are truly on a mission to change the world for the better.
I think absolutely it can. It will require a lot of stuff to, I think, fall into place. I'd say firstly, development beyond the base protocol layer of Bitcoin, building out the Lightning Network and its capabilities. And then beyond that, what do the third and fourth, fifth layers really look like, and how do we interact with those layers? I think it's always necessary to be reminded that when we interact on the internet, like us right now on Zoom, this is not the base layer of the internet. This is a layer 4, possibly, I don't know, layer 3 or above, essentially, that we're interacting with on the internet side of that protocol. But with Bitcoin protocol, we're still really in the first and second layers. So we have a ways to go there, and how that technology develops and how accessible it is to everyone, I think will be really important. As more nation states either condemn Bitcoin, as we've seen certain countries take legislation to do so, or on the other side of it, we see certain legislation to enact Bitcoin as a legal tender, like in El Salvador, or pushes forward the way the Ukrainian parliament just passed legislation a month ago. So I think all of these things are a net positive. How we as a community respond to new people that come in, I think will also be very, very important. And just understanding that not everyone that's going to begin to enter the Bitcoin ecosystem is going to be a Bitcoin maxi. However, there is still a place for all those who are involved in using Bitcoin and its technology.
Right. As much as maximalists might want to, there's no limits on who can use Bitcoin. And yeah, what you're describing, it sounds to me, is the adoption of Bitcoin and how that will play out. And yeah, as you said, it will kind of be like a game theory. Which side of the dice do you fall on? Are you going to support Bitcoin and basically enable decentralized technology to flourish in your state or nation, or will you go the opposite way? And so, yeah, I think it'll be extremely interesting to watch developments like El Salvador, and as different nation states and different institutional level people get involved in Bitcoin. I think there's certainly capacity to change the world, depending on, as you said, kind of how the Bitcoin community reacts to these adoptions and changes, and sometimes even setbacks. But yeah, certainly. So I guess moving forward, I would ask what you're most excited for in the Bitcoin space. I mean, we have so much going on right now. We've got the all-time highs going on. We've got these institutional people. We just had Tim Cook say today, crypto is not a bad part of a diversified portfolio. So we've obviously got high-level institutional engagement here. But beyond that, I'm curious, what are you excited about going forward?
I mean, I, like many people, I think, are very excited and very bullish for a 6-figure Bitcoin. I still am hopeful that it will happen by the end of this year, but for right now, I will take the all-time high and celebrate that. I kind of recognize, and I'm grateful to be in this sort of period of technological advancement where, web development and like web app development, mobile apps, that was an industry that was forged practically 20 years ago with the real formation of the internet. And we're watching right now so many different companies get built on the blockchain. What those technologies and companies look like in the future and what ends up lasting still remains to be seen, but we are witnessing an entirely new sector of the internet be born before our eyes. I think that, to me, is one of the coolest things going on.
Yeah, when I first joined this job, that's pretty much how it felt. It felt somewhat of a risk, but the risk, I sort of found it akin to as if someone had dropped what they were doing and gone and joined Microsoft in the 80s, right? It feels like such a pioneering time period. And there's so much more to be built that I think the best of Bitcoin is ahead of us. And I certainly agree with you there.
Yeah.
So to end on a bullish note, especially given that last night we had all-time highs, I would ask you the price prediction for the end of this year. And you mentioned you would like to see over six figures. And I'd also like to ask you about what you think the price of Bitcoin will be by 2030, which is a far time away.
So I'm still earmarking 100K Bitcoin at or before New Year's this year. Beyond that, for 2030, I will put on my tinfoil hat, and I came up with 5 million based on expectations that, the next theoretical peak, if 67 or if 20,000 was the last peak and 3,000 was that last floor, and if we treat 28,000 like this current floor, the next peak should be over $1 billion, but the likelihood of that is not necessarily as strong as I would like it to be. So I'll dull that down, and I'll take less or 0.5% of that for 5 million in 10 years.
You hear that, plebs? We're billionaires. Well, yeah, I mean, 2030, such a long time away. And I sure hope we're right about the math. And I certainly would accept a percentage of that, 5 million per BTC.
I'm not even asking for a whole percent of that, not to cut you off, but I feel like asking for 0.5% of that is so not greedy, but it's still very greedy.
Yeah, right. When you say it with the 0.5% figure, it's not greedy. And then you think about like the actual market cap required for all that. But with fiat, we don't. They always said there. No one believed that we'd reach the trillions in terms of like monetary stimulus and stuff. So, who knows what the actual nominal value of Bitcoin could look like, in 2030, and who knows if 5 million even means 5 million anymore. It's all kind of up in the air.
Right. I mean, the fact is we're 10x away from being the market cap of gold globally, and I think that happens in the next 10 years, and I don't think it takes us 10 years to get there. And so it's a matter of what happens next, and where and how high can Bitcoin go at that point.
Right. It's like a bet on whether or not people are going to realize that a soft piece of software is more valuable than a rock in the next 10 years, which in this day and age, I would certainly take the side of the software.
When you put it like that, it's almost a no-brainer in the digital age of the 21st century, but we're just trying to write the playbook for everyone to follow.
Right, right. Well, this was excellent. Everyone, make sure to use code Taco Plebs for Bitcoin 2022. It will be an excellent time. You'll get to meet both me and Q there if you come. And make sure to use Macro 21 for the deep dive. You'll find out, the market inside scoop on the deep dive. So if you're really interested in this price talk, make sure to use code Macro 21 to get a discount on that. Q, thanks for joining me. It's been excellent.
Thanks for having me, Casey.
And make sure to check out the next episode of Taco Plebs, everyone. See you later.